In the time that I have been experimenting with film, I have yet to get really adventurous or experimental. If you've been following the channel for a little while now, then you'll know that, over the last year or so, I have tried to experiment a little bit more with different film stocks, but something that I haven't tried until now was any kind of novelty film. I've tried some black and white stocks, I've tried color stocks, but nothing that really throws the unexpected at you. However, the lovely team at Lomography were kind enough to send me some of their Lomography Lomochrome Purple stock to try out. So I shot a roll of 120 on a recent portrait shoot with Khagen, who I'll link in the description. For those of you who aren't already familiar with Lomochrome Purple, it's essentially a film stock that changes the color spectrum. So whilst we had film stock such as aerochrome in the past, Kodak's aerochrome, Lomochrome Purple describes its film stock as blues becoming green, greens becoming purple, yellows becoming pink. And one thing that they do note is that red tones are supposed to stay the same. And that's because of skin tones. They want to kind of preserve skin tones best they can. They market the film as a variable ISO, so 100 to 400. As per their website, what that basically means is that the sensitivity of the film is actually 400, but it is flexible in terms of its light sensitivity. So if you wanted to rate the film at 100 or 200, you would be able to, but you would get varying results. So throughout this video, I'm going to be talking about this film post-processed in 3 different ways. So I'm going to be talking about the initial scans that I got back from the lab. The lab is Galabi Film. If you don't already know about them, I'm going to link them in the description alongside a video I did where I visited them. So alongside the scans from Galabi, I'm also going to be looking at those scans processed in Lightroom. I played about with the colours a little bit, see what I could get out of them. And then I also scanned the film myself using Negative Lab Pro. So my initial thoughts when I got back these scans from Galabi was that I didn't anticipate there to be such a purple cast on all of the images. And I know that sounds a little bit maybe naive. It is a film that makes everything purple after all, but I didn't anticipate everything to have such a strong colour cast. What I also found interesting was the shots that were overexposed, rated at around 200, had a particularly stronger colour cast, and that colour was a lot more of an intense purple, what you'd imagine a purple to be like, kind of more pinky. And then the shots that were a little bit more underexposed, or at least exposed to less light, were a lot more of an indigo kind of tone, a lot bluer. Because of the intensity of the colour cast, it did kind of wash out Khagen's skin tone completely, and you did end up with just purple skin essentially. But something that I was really impressed with was the flexibility when it comes to altering those scans. And so on screen, I'm going to show 2 scans of one particular picture that came out quite purple. On the left-hand side, we've got the scan from Galabi, which has been tweaked in Lightroom. And as you can see, as I tried to bring back some of the skin tone into the image, we didn't lose all of that purple. And I think this is where this film stock has been most successful, and maybe reads most similarly to what it says on the tin in terms of preserving the skin tones, but having it within this realm of trippiness colour. I also scanned it using Negative Lab Pro, which you can see on the right. And you can see here that the image is a lot greener. We've desaturated a lot of those purples, and the image looks a lot more true to life probably. But what I do like about it is that it's still, obviously with all the green tones now brought into it through the post-processing, we still have an image that, although it looks somewhat more realistic than the purple cast, it still has kind of an ethereal colour scheme going on here. Everything isn't quite normal. And in regards to referencing normal, I am going to put up a photo that I took on digital just so that you guys can see what the colours in this scene actually looked like. So like I said, these ones where we have Khagen in greenery, in shrubbery, I think are the most successful. And the reason I think that is because I think that even though his skin tone isn't completely spot on, you can tell from the colour of the grass and stuff that this isn't a maybe realistic view of what we were seeing. So it doesn't look as though it's just been processed or graded wrong, but rather it kind of embraces the weirdness of the film. And I think an interesting comparison here will be to show you the ones I did in front of these more industrial towers that are green. And as we can see in here, I feel as though these aren't as successful because they kind of just look like they've got a purple filter over. It's not very obvious what the film has done in terms of inverting these colours. It just looks like we've applied some sort of filter, maybe in camera or in post. That being said, once I'd scanned in Negative Lab Pro and we had this more desaturated kind of look, I did prefer these images to the initial scans. I feel as though I prefer this film stock when it's more on the subtle side than when it is, you know, in your face and really blaring, or at least in this instance where we're working with models and it is a portrait shoot. I did want to see though what would happen if I tried to bring back some of those colours, and something I was really impressed with was the ease in which this film allowed me to make that colour shift back to some sort of normal colour scheme. Obviously, I don't really know why you would do that. You know, you're buying this film for a reason. I don't know why you'd want to make it look like reality, but it's kind of comforting to know that you can kind of get there with a little bit of tweaking. One of the things that has probably put me off trying novelty films in the past was finding a use for it. So, you know, for example, if you're on a commercial shoot or a portrait shoot where the results aren't really, you know, skin tones are important, having some sort of sense of reality is important. I don't know where this would come into it in a commercial space. But after using it, I feel as though it would really lend itself to more editorial projects. You know, things, especially something that was playing on the idea of realism or things being ethereal, things being dreamlike. I think that this film stock could really help you create some amazing imagery. And I think that one of the strengths is actually how unpredictable it is. It forces you to think a bit more creatively. So whether that's in the shooting process and considering how the end result might be, or whether that's in post-processing, or maybe even, you know, in the way that you are going to be displaying this work and the narrative that you put behind it. So my first impressions of this film is definitely expect the unexpected. Light is definitely a variable on this film, and I think that the way that the film responds and the images that you kind of had in mind are up to a lot more variables maybe than on other film stock. But like I said, I actually think that that is a positive thing and something to be celebrated about this film. I'm really looking forward to trying it out some more. I want to try it out on some landscape shoots, and I'm also going to pick up some 35mm and see if I can get, you know, a few more shots than just the 10 shots to play around and see how I'm finding it in different circumstances. So expect more stuff from me when it comes to Lomography's Lomochrome Purple. It will definitely be coming. And another massive shout out to Khagen for modelling, and obviously to Lomography for sending me the film stock to try out. I think that pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone, experimenting with novelty films, experimenting with things that you might not have ordinarily experimented with is always a positive thing and will always be a strong attribute to your growth. So yeah, I'm really glad that I got the opportunity to get my hands on this stock and try it out. Let me know what you think of the stock, and if you've got any tips on shooting it, I'd love to know. As I said, I will be taking out a little bit more. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next